What's going on, everybody? I hope everyone is having a fantastic night so far. We are back. Took a little break, was on vacation, and man, it is great to talk some Canes football. Fall camp is here. The Miami Hurricanes are taking on the Alabama Crimson Tide September 4th, and Ross also is doing a very, very unique thing with Mark Rogers. Mark, why don't you tell the good people what's going on?
Man, we were just on Mark Rogers' YouTube show, Mark Rogers TV. We were announced that I'll be hosting the Canes portion of his network, and I'll have two fantastic co-hosts. I'll have Jordan Nelson from the Fours Up podcast. He's a co-host there and a producer, and I'll have Derek Coe from SiriusXM from the Cane Gang show on there with me as well. So we're gonna hit it hard, bro, and fans can expect to see some solo stuff from me during the week as well. We're gonna offer some variety for sure.
Gotta love it, man. I think that's a great opportunity for Ross, for Jordan, and Derek. They're going to do great things on Mark Rogers' platform. He is the voice of college football. Did I rep out the U in Europe? Of course I did, Don. You know that. But, man, I'm excited to see the content Ross and Derek and Jordan are going to be putting out. And is it going to be pre and post game as well?
Yeah, the focus will be post game, especially in terms of or in regards to having all three of us on.
Okay.
But I might do some pre-game stuff with Co possibly, and if not, I'll go on solo and do a couple things as well. But yeah, I'd like to hit pre and post game if possible.
All right. Sounds good, Ross. Well, I'm looking forward to watching all three of you guys on a Mark Rogers platform. And let's get to it, man. Fall camp has been in the works. What are your initial thoughts so far of what you've seen from fall camp? Because I'm catching up right now. I got a lot to catch up on. I completely missed a scrimmage at Monsignor Pace Senior High School. There was a fan videotaping one-handed catches of Charleston Rambo. Gotta love it. He burned Tyreek Stevenson on that play, I believe. De'Ara King creating a nice connection with him. People were saying that Jacoby George is a player to look out for. So there's a lot of good things going on. But Ross, what have you seen so far from fall camp that has caught your eye?
And you mentioned it just briefly here. It sounds like those young wide receivers are really making a push. It was about fans for the last couple of years. We were the ones really making the push for the change for the youth movement at wide receiver. It appears that it's actually going to happen now, Paul. These guys are earning their snaps. This isn't just a potential base scenario. Guys like Restrepo are out there earning snaps and making plays consistently, it sounds like.
Yeah, that's great to hear. Guys like Xavier Restrepo, Jacoby George stepping up, Keyshawn Smith. He was just in his press conference just now saying he's gotten a lot better at his route running. Those are three names I would love to make a huge impact this upcoming season. From what I saw, now I've been out of the loop, of course. It seems like Mark Pope is still being incorporated in the offense, and I expect that. The issue with Mark Pope, and I'll keep saying this, he gets open. The issue is catching the football. The speed is there. He's a good route runner. It's just holding on to the football. That's the issue. So I think he's going to be incorporated with the offense because speed-wise, he can become a playmaker. It's just catching the football. Now, we have Charleston Rambo, who, when we spoke to his wide receiver coach, his coach in general, throughout his amateur career, high school, middle school, he said this is a Charleston Rambo you're going to see at the University of Miami compared to Oklahoma. We know what we're going to get with Mike Harley. He's your veteran ACC player who's going to make a lot of plays for you. This is the ideal offense he should have always been in. Now, after those two players, you have Restrepo, Jacoby George, Keyshawn Smith, Mark Pope, D. Wiggins. Who steps up after that? Ross, who do you think from this spring will be that third wide receiver?
I think that Keyshawn Smith will earn that role outright. I really do. And I think it's a fantastic opportunity for him because he is the essence of the wide receiver you want in a spread offense. If fans remember, this was a guy who was committed to Mike Leach at Washington State. Yep. So obviously when Mike Leach sees something in a receiver, usually means that they can play on the P5 level. There's no doubt about it. Leach is one of the best at finding, the 3-star talent that's not getting the respect that they truly deserve. Keyshawn Smith, I think, will really fill that role well. But man, I'm telling you, these young wide receivers are going to get some shots, Paul. They're going to get some opportunities, and Pope and Wiggins better hold on to the damn ball when it comes to them.
I hope so. It's going to be a very interesting season. I'm fully confident in Harley and Charleston Rambo, but after that, that's where the question mark comes into play. Who's going to be incorporated to the offense and who is going to step up? Because we're going to need a lot of underclassmen to step up. That's just being real. If we have 3 underclassmen that step up, great. But we'll see what happens. That's the beauty of the season. Now, I wanted to move forward to interesting news today at fall camp. Zion Nelson was not in attendance. He did not participate for the second uh, fall practice in a row. What do you think, Ross? What's going on? Catch me up here. Was he injured previously? Do you know anything?
Sounds like it's a soft tissue injury. From the sounds of it, this isn't anything extensive or anything that fans need to be alarmed about. It's more of a precautionary move. It sounds like, this is our young left tackle with an NFL future. We're going to make sure he stays healthy so he's ready week 1.
Absolutely. And you know what? We're going to need Zion Nelson a lot throughout the season. Our first team offensive line, it looks pretty solid right now, I'll be honest. I think everyone came back. They returned this upcoming season. Second team offensive line is where there's a lot of big question marks. And I couldn't tell you who is our second team offensive line because in my opinion, even in conference play, it's a little bit shaky. So you have your first team offensive line and you still need to build off of it. And that's okay. But we're still building there at the offensive line position unit. Right now, who do you think's running with the ones right now, ideally? And let's say a healthy Zion Nelson.
Yeah, if we're going with a healthy Zion Nelson, here's my ideal scenario is we've got Zion at left tackle, we've got Jalen Rivers at left guard, Corey Gaynor at center, Navon Donaldson at right guard, and it sounds like Scaife is actually looking really good at right tackle, Paul. It really does. I know there's a Jared Williams and Scaife battle going on there, but it sounds like the staff is really impressed about what Scaife has shown at tackle, and that's where he rightfully belongs, honestly. So I'm not surprised.
Hey, I'm with it. I think it's good to have Jared Williams running with the second team and have Scaife up there running with the first team. It provides nice depth at the right tackle position unit, so I'm all for it.
Yep.
Do you think Navon Donaldson makes that big jump for his final year of college football?
I do. I think he's got his weight in order. I think, and it wasn't just a weight thing, it was a mental thing with him as well. It sounds like he's motivated and he's kind of ready to prove to be the Navon Donaldson that we all thought he would be. He knows that he's got a golden opportunity right now. I mean, he has an absolute golden opportunity to take that position and run away with it and get himself on the NFL map because guys of his size that can be maulers in the run game, they still have some value in the NFL.
Are you comfortable with this offensive line unit going into, I'm going to say conference play, because we understand what they offer. Their defensive line unit, this is the reigning national champions, and everyone that I've interviewed on Alabama's side that covers the team, defense wins championships, and that's what Alabama's going to rely on to win the national title this upcoming season. How comfortable are you with this offensive line in conference play?
Oh, in conference play, I'm extremely comfortable with that offensive line, especially when you consider putting in a guy like Rivers, who has just got incredible upside. I mean, I see him as an NFL type of talent too. It's all about development, of course, and that's where we've lacked on the offensive line. We've had nothing but raw talent and just haven't put it together.
Correct.
I think that I think things are heading in the right direction, Paul. I think they are, and I think that, like you mentioned too, the beginnings of a little bit of depth are starting to show up now, and that's a huge deal.
Slowly but surely. We're going to get there. It's going to take baby steps. I'm very curious how we match up against Alabama's defensive line. I think it's going to be, if we play well, it's going to be a confidence game, where we take that momentum into Michigan State, into North Carolina, into NC State, into Pittsburgh, big time games that they're going to be close games, in my opinion. Pittsburgh always has a great defensive line unit. Pat Narduzzi always has them ready to play defensively. That's going to be a tough matchup. NC State, they're a team to look out for. We all know what North Carolina can do. So, and Michigan State as well. I think of the world of Mel Tucker. They beat a damn good Northwestern football team this past season that competed with Ohio State in the Big Ten championship. That's another team to look out for. So Miami, in my opinion, they have a fairly tough schedule coming up. Fairly tough. You do get a few home games that are going to be nice for you, but this is a tough schedule. So this offensive line unit, I'm curious how they play against week 1 against Alabama, and I have no idea how they will play, either really good, really bad, or maybe just in the middle. But I'll tell you what, our first team offensive line, like Jason Fox said, you need to have them rolling the entire game and create a rhythm. Because once you start switching offensive line units, first team, second team, rotating players, then it gets out of sync. And that's someone who started at the University of Miami 47 games out of the 48 games that he played at the University of Miami. I think it was second all time.
Well, I'll tell you what, Paul, if we're watching that Bama game and we start seeing some offensive line rotations early and it's not injury based, yeah, I'm going to be a little worried because I'm all about cohesion and I'm all about a unit gelling together. You can't do that when guys are coming in and out. And like Jason Fox mentioned, we have to have that first team unit. You know, the second team unit, yes, that's where the great teams start to get the depth in the trenches. But for the Miami Hurricanes right now, we need that first team unit to be solid.
By the way, I've been asked this tons of times. I don't have an answer for it. Have you heard of anything about Isaiah Walker?
You know, not much, Paul, honestly. This was a guy I was really high on coming out of high school. Him and Rivers were actually two of my favorite offensive linemen in their class. I don't know if it's a developmental thing, if it's a physical thing, or if there's an injury that's been lingering. I really don't know, Paul, but, you know, he still is a guy to keep an eye on for the future because we saw what he did in high school. He's a supremely talented player with the right development.
No, I 110% agree. It's one of those things I'm curious about as well. Where is Isaiah Walker? We haven't heard his name much at all, nearly to any noise about Isaiah Walker. And the good thing is he is an underclassman. You know, I understand modern day college football, a lot of players, you know, they're impact players right away. So we'll see what happens. Maybe it'll take a couple years of development. Let's move over to the running back position unit. This is a hot little position group right now. There's in the chat, someone did mention rumors about Jalen Knighton not being able to play against Alabama. I know someone else threw that out there earlier today. Don't have to get into it because it's rumors. That's all it is, right? There's no sense of talking about it. I heard Don Chaney is very ahead in his rehab from his injury. He looks great, up to par, even better than expected. What do you think right now at the running back position unit where we stand, Ross?
I think we stand in a very unique position for the simple fact that if you think about all of the running backs that we have on our roster, if they're healthy and ready to play week 1, we've got guys that offer a little bit of everything. We got guys that can run between the tackles. We got guys that can get the tough yards. We got a guy who can get to the outside in rooster, a guy who can be a big threat in the short pass game as well for us. And that's going to me, Paul, that's going to be a big deal for us with Bama. When Bama decides to, if they do decide to blitz, you know, if we're actually winning our one-on-one battles and they have to blitz, that's where those little dump-offs to Rooster are going to be really crucial. That's where you see Lashley's offense shine his yards after the catch.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I 110% agree. I'm still curious, and I still don't like this. How are we going to distribute all of the carries with all these running backs we have? We have Thad Franklin, Cam Harris, we got Cody Brown, Don Chaney. You got 4 good running backs who can play at the Power 5 level. How do you distribute those carries? I always liked one running back getting the heavy majority of carries, kind of that old school mentality. And then your second running back as your third down short yardage situation back. That's just the way I like it. Now, modern day college football, if you're running an up-tempo offense, you got to switch it up a little bit because obviously running backs, they're big guys. They're over 200 pounds usually. You know, it's tough to keep up to par with that kind of offense. So I'm curious how that will pan out. Who do you think starts against Alabama?
You know, it's a question that I've been asking myself quite a bit, Paul. I think ideally, in my opinion anyways, Don Chaney is the guy who should be starting there for the simple fact that when we have him on the field, the Bama defense can't just predict what's going to happen ultimately. They can't just say, oh, it's a run between the tackles, it's a run to the outside, oh, it's a pass play. They don't know when Chaney's on the field. Right. We need that guy that can run between the tackles, Paul. We have to get those tough 3-4 yards when it's necessary. And it's why I believe that a guy like Cam Harris will ultimately get a pretty decent amount of carries too. The deep pass game has to be going. It has to, Paul. If the
Correct.
deep pass game isn't clicking, our
Correct.
run lanes are plugged immediately.
Correct. That was beautiful. That was amazing. No, I 110% agree with that. We need to set up a deep ball pass game, which is something that was non existent, in my opinion, for quite a while at the University of Miami due to our personnel. No reason to keep beating the bush, but that's what it is. I think that's why we brought in Charleston Rambo to excel that aspect, of our deep ball threat, something we didn't have. And hopefully that'll be a big asset to our offense against Alabama because it has been non-existent. We have had very rarely at times running the ball for long distances as well. Our run game was very, very inconsistent this past season. We went from like 8 yards or like literally 3 yards against Clemson with our running backs. Against North Carolina, it wasn't pretty easy as well. So I'm very curious how much improvement we have this upcoming season. I'm not expecting us to run over 100 yards on the ground with our running backs over 100 yards. I'm not expecting that whatsoever. Now, if De'Ara King is our leading rusher, I'm not surprised. I'm expecting De'Ara King to be our leading rusher against Alabama. That's my opinion. Am I going to be completely wrong on that? I could be. I could be not. So it's 50-50 right there, but I don't think we're going to be dominating the ground game is the way our offense is going to be moving. I don't think that's what's going to be moving the offense. I think it's going to be more throwing the football and De'Ara King utilizing his legs. How do you see that?
Ideally, yes, that's exactly how I see it too, Paul, but it all comes down to the offensive line. If the offensive line isn't blocking, we don't get to run the offense we want to run. That's when Lashley has to start making changes on the fly. I want to see the Lashley offense that he has planned. I want to see it all its glory. I don't want to see us have to go to plan B and plan C options 6 minutes into the first quarter because we're just not moving the ball due to the offensive line failing.
I think the past season, like we knew Rhett Lashley kind of threw the white flag or was like, shoot, like I'm slipping here, man. I don't know what else to do. I think you know it too when he throws the ball to Mallory and then Jordan takes off and Mallory just like dumps it for like a 30-yard pass, and I think everybody knows that's when it's like, oh boy, it's gonna be a long night. There's comments about Will Mallory here in the chat. Hopefully he shows up as a tight end. Listen, I am dying for Will Mallory to be the leading tight end. I honestly think this kid, if you look at his measurements, you look at his speed, I think Miami did him a little bit wrong, putting on a little bit too much weight. I think we could have utilized him at wide receiver. I think he's even a Power 5 wide receiver if he slimmed down, taken from high school. I think he's going to have a great season. We just have to utilize him more than we have had in the past.
I agree. I agree completely, Paul. And what I like about Mallory is when he's on the field, like a Don Chaney, like I was speaking about, the defense can't predict exactly what's going to happen. He can stay in and block. He can go out for a route. The nice thing about Mallory, too, is he can go out and kind of just pose and pretend like he's a traditional tight end, go out and do a little dinky 3-yard route, hitch, and then take off again because he has that kind of speed. I want to see some big plays from Mallory, and I think we will, Paul. I really do. This is an NFL caliber guy.
The closer said it's Mallory's time. If it doesn't happen now, it won't happen. Just needs to stay healthy, and that's a great point. Yep. He needs to stay healthy. He's our best mismatch in the end zone, in my opinion, that I can think of right now. Jump ball situations. He's 6'5". He weighs over 220 pounds. He's an X factor on the field. It has to happen this upcoming season. It has to, and I think it will. We just need to utilize the tight ends a little bit more, something I thought we could have done this past season, but hey, it is what it is. Second year under Rhett Lashley, Will Mallory is your go-to guy. You have your X factors in Charleston Rambo and Mike Harley. Third yardage situations, you need a quick down and out, you go to Will Mallory. That's your guy. That's your guy in the end zone. He's going to get you first downs and convert the chains.
I agree completely. The versatility that he offers, Paul, is such a big deal. That's where we can maneuver him into the mismatches and stuff, the things that Lashley just loves to do. I want to see Mallory used in a variety of ways. I want to see him, he's not going to be Brevin Jordan. That's one thing that we can't. He's not that kind of player, but he'll offer things that are going to be just as impactful or more impactful, possibly.
Once again, I know a lot of people are commenting in the section about Jalen Knight, and those are rumors. I cannot talk about it
No.
because they're rumors. And it's not fair to Jalen Knight at all. It's not fair to the people watching to talk about something that are rumors. And rumors are rumors, and that's what it is. So I'm not going to go forward in discussing that, but the comment section is talking about that. So I understand a first team defense was released in fall camp, several of them every single day, a little bit different. We have our most present day one. I want to talk about the defensive line first. Zach McLeod, he recorded a sack in the scrimmage. People thought he's the next coming of Gregory Rousseau, Jalen Phillips. This is his year to dominate. No, I'm kidding. Hate to be hard on Zach McLeod. What do you think, man? I know he's going to get the nod as a starter at defensive end. I know Javari Harvey will as well. A little bit surprised DeAndre Johnson isn't making that push to be a starter, in my opinion, coming from the SEC. Had 4.5 sacks this past season, but I understand they're going to be pushing for the veteran presence. We all saw that under the Manny Diaz tenure that it is what it is. What do you think? You think the Zach McLeod project will be a success in his final year of college football?
In terms of exactly what a success might be, I hate to put like numbers on it, but basically from Zach McLeod, if he can prove to be somewhat of a consistent pass rush threat, it's a success, Paul. It flat out is, because we need that. We desperately need it while our young guys develop behind them. I think it's going to be, 5-6 weeks until we start to see guys like Harvey really show what they can do at the Power 5 level. We need these vets, and we need DeAndre Johnson to show up, Paul. We really do.
DeAndre Johnson, we need that depth. Obviously, losing Cam Williams was a big blow. No, we need DeAndre Johnson depth-wise. Chance Williams, everyone is raving about him. Everyone. I haven't heard one bad thing about him. That's another player who I think is going to provide. Our second-team defensive end is pretty solid in conference play, of course. I mean, we can't compare it to last year because that was A1, right? So I think, in my opinion, a great goal for Zach McLeod and Javari Harvey is get 4 sacks. I think that's a solid goal. 4 to 5 sacks, you get 6, great. I think those are solid stats for the personnel we have right now.
I agree. I think, Paul, this is not going to be about one or two guys getting a ridiculous amount of sacks. This is going to be a team effort. This is going to be spread out across the defensive line, and we need everybody to play their role when we need them to play their role. We don't necessarily need someone to come out and be the next first-round defensive end, but we need guys to stay put on the outside when the run's coming out there, and we need guys to get pressure.
How do you feel about the interior so far?
It's an interesting spot, Paul. It really is, and it's a spot that we have to have thrive from the moment we get on the field versus Bama, due to the fact that we don't know what our linebacker core is going to quite look like, Paul. We need these guys on the inside to do the dirty work for us to help the rest of the defense out.
I understand. Did Nesta not practice today?
I don't think he did, no.
Okay. That's that's a big question mark I have against Alabama. I don't know how Nesta Silvera will play against Alabama. I think Harrison Hunt will hold his own weight. I don't know about Nesta. Because Nesta, there's talent, and he was the best in shape this past season, but they mess with his head a lot. And that's when you get the bad side of Nesta, where he commits a lot of penalties, is when they start messing with his head.
Yep.
And that's the mental side of football, where you just have to lock in and just ignore your opponent. I understand that does fuel his fire, talking trash with the opponents, but messing with Nesta's head is where you get a lot of penalties. And opponents love to get in his head. So, interior defensive line, we look great conference-wise against Alabama. That's a question mark for me, our entire defensive line unit, how we will play.
Paul, one thing that has stood out a little bit to me when I've been reviewing some news about the scrimmages, and while everybody knows I'm hesitant about true freshmen, but it sounds like Leonard Taylor looks like he could be the real deal, especially for us. It sounds like he has impressed people right away, and not just him. 5-star James Williams. When you look at the film, and it's like bringing guys in and out of drills, and all of a sudden number 0 pops in, you go, holy crap, dude, that guy is huge. And these guys are almost physically ready to play college football right now.
Now, Ross, do you think we'll see Leonard Taylor and James Williams in action get a good amount of snaps against Alabama?
Um, I think it depends on a lot of things, Paul. I think it really does. I think that Leonard Taylor is going to be a guy that is definitely going to get snaps because just that kind of power and talent on the inside is always worth trying to take a shot at. What I think is going to be unique, and I hope to see, is James Williams be used as that movable chess piece occasionally. Bring him in and out of the lineup when we need to, utilize him wherever we feel we need to utilize him at, and really cause some confusion for the offense. I want to put him out there and have Bryce Young have absolutely no idea what we're going to do with James Williams.
Yeah. What's curious? Where do we put James Williams? Put him at the safeties position unit. Cam Kitchens has 5 interceptions so far. This fall, you got Bubba Bolden, Gervin Hall. It's a good thing to have a problem like that depth wise. But I'm curious, is Cam Kitchens, James Williams, are they just going to take over the position unit? I highly doubt it because you got Bubba Bolden there. So how do you rotate those players? You know, so I don't know where James Williams is going to be implemented if he is the first game against Alabama because there's so many ways you can use him. You can literally use him as a striker for a few snaps.
Yep.
Literally.
Yep. I was just going to say that, actually. I was going to say that it would be very unique to see a scenario where Frierson and James Williams are on the field at the same time in a dual striker role. Paul, I won't be shocked at all if we see some defensive setups where we only have one linebacker on the field. Honestly, I think that we could try to throw that confusion, especially with T-Rob being in the secondary coach now. We've got that trust. We've got a legitimate guy back there teaching our players what to do now and how to defend the spread offense.
So we'll get into bold predictions later, but we'll throw one in now. Who do you think are the starting safeties at the end of the season?
At the end of the season, Bubba Bolden, no doubt about it. I am going to say that T-Rob is going to be the ultimate teacher, and he is going to get Gervin Hall right and get him good enough to at least be the starter on the team while we develop the young guys behind him.
I hope you're right. I hope
me
you're
too.
right.
Me too.
That would be great. I think that would be huge. Gervin Hall holds his own weight. I think you see flashes of great success of why he was a 4-star recruit coming out of high school. You see those flashes. You see the big hits. Just putting it all together throughout the season. I think that's what the issue is. I think there's a lot more consistencies than great play. I think first half Bubba Bolden played outstanding. I think the second half was god awful to a certain extent. He did have moments, but I don't think it was his best game. So
I think Gervin, honestly, I think he's going to have kind of a little motivation to play well against Bama. You got to remember, this is the guy that Nick Saban flew in on a helicopter at practice to try to impress to get him to commit. Gervin Hall ultimately chose Miami. He's going to want to show Nick Saban and them that he didn't make a mistake, that he chose the right school, and hopefully T-Rob is the right guy to help him with that.
Hey, we'll find out a lot. I know one thing, Travaris Robinson is killing it in recruiting, and we'll get into that shortly. But let's switch over to the linebackers position unit. Keontre Smith has been a hot topic.
Yes.
The last few days, switching over from striker to the linebacker position. A lot of people, including me, thought he's a little bit undersized. He seems like it's been a fairly easy transition. What do you think about Keontre Smith taking that starting role game one against the Alabama Crimson Tide so far?
I think it's fantastic just in terms of raw upside, Paul. Yeah. Having a guy like him with his background playing linebacker in this new age offense that we're going to be going against. I mean, dude, to me, this is kind of perfect if it works out, of course, if he develops into the guy we need him to be week by week. But I think he ultimately, with next to Flag, gives us the best, at least package anyways, of raw upside on our linebacking core that can outright contribute this year.
I'm still curious how we, perform and we finish our tackles against a run-heavy offense with big running backs that are over 200 plus pounds, big body running backs, because I think we're a bit undersized at that position unit. And I think a lot of people do agree it's one of the weaker position units for the Miami Hurricanes football team. So I'm curious how we play against, the run. How's our run defense going to be? How many yards we allow on the ground? That's a big question mark for me. So I hope Keontre Smith does a great job this fall. But until I see him play against Alabama throughout this whole season, it's still a big question mark for me because that personnel unit does not excite me one bit. And I think it's one of our weaker ones I've seen in quite a while at the University of Miami. And I think specifically running the football against us is going to be a big, a, that's going to hurt us a lot. It's going to hurt us a lot. That's just one of my predictions.
Paul, and it's exactly why I was adamant about bringing up the idea that the interior offense or the interior defensive line has to pull their weight this year. They can't just expect these linebackers to be behind and plug in lanes. We need our guys up front to eat space and plug lanes, and that's going to be a big difference for us this year if we can make that happen. I'll tell you what, Paul, if we can't make that happen on the interior, it's going to be a long night for Canes fans versus Bama, I promise.
Hey, Anthony Castillo makes a great point. I'm very curious to see Bill O'Brien's offense against Manny Diaz's defense. I'll tell you one thing. They're going to slowly implement the offense. They're going to run the football on us.
Yep.
They're going to continuously run the football. And that's how they're going to open up passing the football. They have a young quarterback, Bryce Young. He's making his first big start. The bright lights of college football will be a top 15 matchup. Miami's ranked 14. Alabama's number 1. They're going to try to run the football up our throat, and that's how they'll open up their offense throwing the football.
I see it as simple as this, Paul. Nick Saban is going to sit there. He's going to look at his roster. He's going to look at our roster. He's going to go down it and say, this guy can beat this guy on the Canes. This guy can beat this guy on the Canes. And he's going to go eye for an eye, man for a man, and force us to have to possibly make them be creative. And until we have to force creativity from them, they will keep it simple. Saban's not a fool. He doesn't want to dig deep into his playbook and expose a bunch of stuff early in a game or early in the season if he outright doesn't have to. If we can't stop the power run versus Bama, dude, it's a mess, bro. It'll be an absolute mess.
Just want to thank everyone for joining us so far. 33 minutes in. We have 90 people joining us live. Haven't gone live in 2 weeks. I was out of the country. I was in Europe. 8-hour time difference. 6 hours. Who cares? Couldn't do shows at 4 a.m., 3 a.m. So thank you, everyone, for joining us. It means a lot to us, and we greatly appreciate your support. I know Ross is doing great things with Mark Rogers. Go check him out for the pre- and post-game shows. He's going to kill it with Jordan and Derek Coe. All right, Ross, let's talk about the cornerbacks group. A little bit surprised. Tyreek Stevenson hasn't, in my opinion, been making that much noise. There was one video clip, not the biggest deal in the world. He was completely burnt by Charleston Rambo. He made a nice one-handed catch as well in the end zone. You got Corey Couch and DJ Ivy. You got to love him, man. You got to love the heart in that kid. Been through a lot at the University of Miami. He's your starting quarterback so far throughout fall camp. What do you think so far? How do you like that personnel going in?
I like the personnel. I know that there's been some worries with fans about Tyreek Stevenson, but I think that he'll calm those worries down pretty quick, honestly. He's an SEC caliber cornerback at the University of Miami being taught by Travaris Robinson. He's going to be okay. To me, Paul, to Corey Couch and Ivy, that's where my attention's at right now. I believe that Ivy will be a better player in T-Rob's system, but I truly believe Couch is going to take a monumental leap this next season. I really do.
I agree. No, I completely agree. I think to Corey Couch, anyone just under Travaris Robinson is going to make a huge improvement. I think DJ Ivy is going to take a big jump as well. He has the measurements. He has the long arm. He has the stature to be a nice cornerback at the Power 5 level.
And he plays physical.
And yeah, he does. So let's see. Put it all together this upcoming season. If not, Ross, I don't know. I don't know. It's either now or never, right?
Yep. This is the time for Ivy. Ivy has to make it happen now. He has to.
What's the word on Outblades right now, Ross? Like I said, I've been out of the country. I'm trying to catch up. 100 times more than me in general, but.
Al Blades is a guy that I'm not hearing a whole lot about, Paul. Honestly, I'm not. I don't know if there's been any type of a lingering injury issue on and off or anything like that, but I really haven't heard a lot of major impact from him. I have heard that there's been times where he's looked solid in coverage, and that's expected. I expect Blades to look solid in coverage. But, Paul, with T-Rob being the cornerbacks coach now, I feel like we're going to want to go to a physical style of football, and I just don't know if he fits it truly.
Interesting. I'm curious how that plays out. this upcoming season. I'll say one thing: Isaiah Dunson, I think, is the real deal. I think he's going to add nice depth this upcoming season. And I think he's a future starting cornerback at the University of Miami and a name to look out for. He
Yes, sir.
did a phenomenal job in the spring game.
Yes, he's got all the measurables you can ask for. And, that was one of those ones where it kind of fell in our lap. He left FSU late in the process. There really wasn't a better place to go for him except Miami. And
Right.
that was, unfortunately, that was how Mike Rumpf won his recruiting battles, kind of sitting back and just waiting for it to happen, unfortunately. Now we have a proactive guy who's out there. I mean, dude, let's face it. Mike Rumpf is our cornerback coach right now. Our 2022 cornerback class wouldn't look like it does right now. That's just a
100%.
fact.
100%. 100%. All right. Well, we covered basically everything. We missed out on a striker who Frierson is the starting striker this fall so far. I understand Amari Carter as well is providing depth at the striker position. Anything you want to add on there?
I think we'll see Frierson really, really take it to the next level himself too. I'm excited about
Yep.
Frierson. I'm really excited about the tutelage he's going to get, not only from because Pat Key is definitely the guy who does a lot for him, but there's going to be times where T-Rob is going to get involved with Frierson because he truly needs to.
Yep.
I'm really curious to see how those two worlds mesh. But a guy like Carter, if he can come in, Paul, and occasionally play downhill football and impact the run game and make a couple big hits, it's totally worth it.
Gotta love it, man. We'll see what happens. Let's talk some recruiting before we get into our bold predictions for this upcoming season. Jaleel Skinner, one of the top tight ends in the nation. This is Coach Fields' pride and joy. This is who he wants. He's going to have to fight off the Alabama Crimson Tide to get him. I believe he's making his decision early October. I want to say October 6th or the 8th, roughly around there.
Yeah.
Ironically, we play Alabama first game, so, he is also considering Alabama. Where do you think things stand right now, Ross? Because this is a must-get. This is a program-changing tight end.
This is, and I referred to him before as the ultimate weapon on offense. This is a guy who might be able to do some possible Kyle Pitts type performances at the college level. That's the type of explosive athlete he is at his size. I think we're in a good spot, Paul. I can't sit here and say that if he was going to commit today that he would choose Miami, but we are one of his top schools, and I believe that we'll remain one of his top schools. We're going to be in this battle till the end. Field is a fantastic recruiter. He is one of our absolute best. That guy's a chameleon. He can go anywhere and be anybody at any time. And he's going to hopefully get Jaleel Skinner comfortable with playing in the Lashley offense.
Well, hey, we'll see what happens. He's a big name. And you know what? There's another big name out there that Miami, in my opinion, needs to land. That's Anthony Lucas, the number 1 overall player in the state of Arizona. We had him on our show. That relationship with Coach Ishmael Aristide back all the way in Texas A&M when they were recruiting him was huge. Yep. This is Coach Aristide's, once again, his big prize to land. What do you think's going on right here?
Paul, I still think we're in a fantastic spot for Anthony Lucas. That when we had him on, there was the one that he kind of laughed about it too, about how his dad thought we should have gave him an offer a little bit early.
Yeah.
But thankfully we gave him that offer, and we kind of have calmed some of those worries down. We got dad feeling all good. We explained to him why we took the approach we took, and it seems to be that they fully understand it. This is an elite player, Paul. This is an absolute superstar, in my opinion, and it would be a shame if we didn't get him, because I don't want to see him playing for somebody else.
No, I agree. No, it's going to be a huge loss if we miss out on Skinner and Lucas for the program. I mean, let's be real. I mean, those are two players who are really going, if you're into class rankings, which I know a lot of people are, they're going to give you a very nice bump.
Yeah.
These are instant impact players, no doubt about it, either year 1 or year 2. Absolutely, man. These guys are huge to the program, to the class. So these are must-win situations. Shamar Stewart is another name who I feel like every day it's kind of like, I don't know, it goes back and forth. Miami, Georgia, Ohio State, pick your poison. This is going to be a shootout as well. I'm not trying to put the pressure on anyone, but these are all 3 must-get recruits. I mean, Ross, what do you think about Shamar Stewart? And then I'll say my take.
Getting that buzz that we got, about a month or three weeks ago or so, about him, really getting on campus multiple times, wanting to work out for the staff. That's all still fantastic stuff. But I'll tell you what, we went proactive this time, Paul. We're not just waiting. We went and held a scrimmage at Monsignor Pace. We went and held the scrimmage on his field. We're letting it be known to Shamar Stewart that we want him at the University of Miami.
I agree. No, I mean, Shamar Stewart, we're going all in for him. He's in our backyard. He's in Opelika, Florida, in Miami-Dade County. This is a must-get. We can't lose a kid from Miami-Dade County to programs such as Ohio State and Georgia. Once again, I think Miami's in the lead. I think they're the front runner. We have to win.
Yep.
We do need to win. We cannot get blown out and embarrassed. We cannot lose the locker room under Manny Diaz. He can be thrown in the hot seat. Nobody wants to play for a program like that. They're going to use that as a advantage towards Miami, and Georgia can use that easily. They win a lot of football games. Do they win their conference every year? No. Do they win the national title? Never. But you know what? They consecutively win 10 games every single season, and there's consistency there, where Miami, it's a roller coaster ride, and it's usually going downhill the past 20 years. So let's keep it real.
Georgia, like you mentioned, even if they're not necessarily winning all the big games, it's that consistency. It's that double-digit win mark every year. It will attract recruits. I guarantee it. Hey, look, we're seeing it work for Georgia. They're not even having to win a title, and they're still pulling together top 5 classes consistently.
Snoop Amama, I know you love him. I love him too. I think Canes Nation loves him as well. Great kid, offensive line, huge presence. This is someone who's gaining traction in the Power 5 world. In my opinion, he should get a 4-star bump. You talk to him a lot. You have a great relationship with him. Where do you think things stand?
I think that, we're in the driver's seat, Paul. There's absolutely no doubt about it. I talk to this kid on a regular basis. I talk with his father often as well. Me and him were texting during the game, kind of comparing what we were seeing. I actually got a chance to watch Snoop live in week 1, which was fantastic.
That's cool.
They didn't necessarily use him a lot in that game, but they didn't need to. They found something working on the left side, and they just went to it, and they kept it simple. I talked with Snoop about it afterwards, and I could see his body language on the field. He wanted them to run it to his side more. He wanted to get those pancakes, and he wanted to get that film out there. But we talked, and he's calm. He's confident that he's going to get more opportunities week 2, and I truly believe he will, because this defense that they're going to play is going to throw a little more at him than the first team.
Snoop's a great kid, man, and I think he just needs to work on some things, and I think he can really be a star at the next level. He looks like a Power 5 offensive lineman, and I'm excited to see where he ends up in his decision. I know the program that he does pick, they're going to be with a very fortunate player. And Ross, you've developed a great relationship with Snoop. So, man, if there's someone to speak highly of Snoop, it's you, because you've developed a great relationship with him. So
He wants to come to Miami. Canes fans, there's absolutely no doubt about it. Snoop Ama wants to be a Miami Hurricane, period.
So, what are we waiting for? Is there someone that Garen Justice wants to land first as a priority that's stopping this?
Possibly one name, Malik Ogbo. That might be that might be the other name that we need to talk about. Now, Jacob Hood is also a guy we need to mention. We can't forget about him. But I think that Garen Justice is kind of zeroing in a lot more on Ogbo. And I think he's kind of doing the same for Snoop, too. I mean, they're going out of their way to make Snoop feel welcome. So there's something going on there, Paul. There is. And if we get Ogbo, watch out, man. I mean, that's unbelievable to pull a player of his stature all the way across the country. He's in South Seattle.
No, Malik Ogbo is huge. I mean, he's a 5-star recruit. He's one of the top offensive linemen in the nation. He's all the way in the Pacific Northwest. You're closer to him than the city of Miami is. And you're in Alaska.
Yep. I'm way closer.
You're way closer. So, listen, Malik Ogbo, great player. That's who we're waiting for. And then they will reevaluate things. I think Snoop, I would take him before a couple other players that we've taken already. But, hey, I welcome everyone to the University of Miami. I'm going to root for them. So, hey, we'll see what happens. Ross, anything else you wanted to add on this show in recruiting? Maybe we missed a couple players or someone in particular you wanted to speak about.
Just that linebacking core, Paul, not only is it an issue for us on game day right now, but we're still sorting things out on the recruiting trail. Unfortunately, the Devin Jackson hype, it died down really quick. I don't want to sit here and say that there's no way we get him, but there's some big players involved now. Some very, very big players involved.
Yeah.
We know we've talked about this before. We got to land Wesley. We have to. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. If we don't get him, it is a major fail, and he needs to be the foundation of this linebacking class going forward.
Yeah, no, I 110% agree. I think Wesley Bissainthe has been our priority since day one, and we need to land him no matter what. Like I said, I've been out of the country. I don't know what happened with Devin Jackson. Cannot comment on that. What happened behind the scenes? Seemed like Oklahoma and Texas came out of nowhere. I'm pretty sure they even gave him the tip that they're going to be joining the SEC as well, which he even lit up his eyes. Devin Jackson, Wesley Bissainthe are the perfect prototypical athletic linebackers you want in a 4-2-5 scheme. I think that's what Manny Diaz was going for. Omar Graham Jr., I know I'm a huge fan of him. So are you. Physical, aggressive player from Broward County. That's who I wanted to be our second linebacker after Wesley Bissainthe. But hey, it is what it is. Got to respect the decision of the staff. And Demario Tolan was a great player as well. We lost him to LSU. So hey, we have to go all out for Wesley Bissainthe. If
We have
not,
to.
it's not looking pretty.
We have to. We have to put on the full show, put out the red carpet, do whatever it takes, but we got to get him locked in. And I'll tell you, Paul, bringing up Omar Graham, I look at Omar Graham and Snoop kind of in the same way. These physical players that I simply do not want to see ever lining up against the University of Miami.
Right. Exactly. If Miami loses them, they'll do great things at another program.
Yep.
Simple. And those are the players you don't want to miss out on.
FSU got themselves a hell of a linebacker.
Those fall football highlight tapes look awful. They look horrendous. Like they look like players who don't even want to be there. I don't understand. There were, by the way, guys, if you have missed it, Athlon Sports, there were like 3 riders. I won't even say the names. It's not even worth it. They all chose Florida State to beat Miami and Tallahassee. To be fair, everyone could be right because, like, obviously Florida State could beat Miami, and look, that's why you play the game. Someone has to win. There's a 50% chance Florida State wins over Miami. There's 2 teams playing. It's not rocket science. But yeah, I was very surprised people think Florida State is going to beat the University of Miami this upcoming season. I think it was. Hey, everyone's entitled to their own opinion. Leave it at that.
Yeah, I don't see where they've made the advancements on their team to make the difference between the 52-10 score we saw last year. And on top of that, Paul, in some areas now, especially wide receiver, cornerback, we've got more experience and possibly more talent already than we had last season versus FSU.
Correct. So, hey, we'll see what happens. And all right, we got 10 minutes left. We covered recruiting. We went over fall camp. Let's talk about some bold predictions for this upcoming season. Ross, all right, Derek King, will he break 500 yards on the ground?
Yes.
You think he will? So
Yep.
will he be our leading rusher this upcoming season?
No, I think he'll be right around that 500 mark. I don't think he'll be much higher than that, and I think we'll find our RB1 throughout the season. I believe that.
Hey, I hope so, because last year was not pretty whatsoever,
No.
and we did not identify our starting running back at all. Our leading running back, or running back 1, whatever you want to call it, it was god-awful. So we need to identify a running back that at least breaks 700 rushing yards, 600. Because, I mean, honestly, you need to have a 1,000-yard running back, in my opinion, to be successful, to have an efficient offense. And I'm talking about a college football playoff efficient offense, not one in the ACC that comes third in the ACC or fourth.
Yep, I got you. And Paul, there's a bold prediction I got here. I believe that this season, and we'll see it in an H-back role more than a tight end role, I believe that Larry Hodges is actually going to turn out to be a red zone threat for us. I believe that Lashley is going to get very unique with him at times, and I think we'll see some detached or inline type of H-back stuff like we saw with Brevin Jordan.
Which true freshman or redshirt freshman's fine will get the most receptions this upcoming season?
I'll say from the standpoint of simply being available for more shorter passes consistently would probably be Restrepo, I think.
Restrepo?
Yeah.
Okay. That's fair. I think so too. Any true freshmen you think?
I think that there's roles for them. I mean, fans know Romello Brinson. I think he is absolutely elite. I think he does everything at an elite level. Of course, as true freshmen, I don't expect them to just be world beaters right away. But guys like Brinson are going to get roles against some of these ACC teams, and don't be surprised to see Brashard Smith be put out there on tosses, sweeps, things like that. Ways we can utilize his speed because Paul, he is absolutely electric.
Who will be our punt returner?
Yeah, that goes back to and I saw it last year, and it's for the simple fact that this kid has got some balls. I loved what I saw from Restrepo last year, and I'll tell you why, Paul. When he came in as a true freshman and he took that punt off the bounce when everyone was waiting for it to be downed, that
Right.
showed some crazy, crazy big balls. And I'd love to see what he can do with some more opportunities. I really would.
Yeah, I think Xavier Restrepo will be returning punts. You know, we'll see. We'll see what happens. But I need to see a little bit more from that unit in general because it hasn't been good whatsoever. I'll leave it at that. All right. James Williams, Leonard Taylor, will they be starting at their respective positions at the end of the season?
No, no, they'll be depth pieces. I think that they'll be guys that will get rotated in more and more throughout the season. But I don't think either one of them will be starters necessarily by the end of the year.
I think Leonard Taylor starts at defensive tackle. Now, whether it's over Harrison Hunter Nesta, I don't know, but I think he starts at defensive tackle by the end of the season.
Yeah, he's a supremely talented player, Paul, and he's already physically capable of being on the field and playing in the college game.
Will our linebacker core be efficient in conference play?
Oh, I hope so, man. I hope so. I think that we'll see more efficiency and just better overall play in conference. But man, these out of conference games, Paul, I'm worried. I'm legit worried.
I'm very worried. No, absolutely. I'm very worried. I think App State's a game where they run the ball efficiently and they love to run the ball, regardless if their quarterback was the grad transfer from Duke, who we beat 48-0. They're going to run the football against us. So any team that wants to run the football efficiently, I think it's going to be a very interesting matchup for Miami. Ross, anything else you wanted to talk about before we wrap it up?
Just one of the games that I feel is just utterly important, and I've mentioned it before, that Michigan State game, Paul.
Yep.
Especially not, if we don't beat Bama, we go into that. This is our first chance to get a Power 5 win against a team that's not in our conference, against a team that actually has a brand nationwide. Michigan State, while they're not the Michigan State they used to be, it's still a brand nationwide.
Oh, believe me, I have that game circled. I am ready to go that week. It's a noon game. That's a sleeper game right there. Those non-conference noon games during the day where you wake up, you don't wake up the first two quarters, the third quarter, then the fourth quarter comes, you're down by 2, late drive. That's going to be a very interesting matchup. They don't make a lot of mistakes, Michigan State. This is a young team with a lot of transfer portal players, and Mel Tucker will have a defense ready to go. Miami will better be ready to play because if not, you will take home a loss.
I agree. This is a team that you cannot sleep on no matter what their recent history might suggest. They're going to start to get pointed in the right direction. I think it's going to be sooner than later.
Well, Ross, man, it was a pleasure to have you on. You will be working with Mark Rogers, and I cannot wait to see the amount of content you put out with everyone else.
Thanks, man. We're going to be kicking some butt, Paul. We're going to do it on here as well, guys. I'll be back and forth with the Scoop and Mark Rogers. Nothing's going to change over here at the Scoop, man. We're going to keep kicking ass. I'll tell you that.
Gotta love it, man. And thank you. We had 115 people join us less than an hour. We greatly appreciate everyone's support, man. It truly means the world to us. We haven't gone live in a while. I was on vacation. Ross was doing things with Mark Rogers behind the scenes. So we were extremely busy, but we appreciate everyone's support, man. And always all about the U. Go Canes.
Go Canes.